Behind the Shades.
Well, my name is Lucy. I am a lifelong multi-sport athlete. I am a registered nurse and worked through the thick of it in COVID, at which time I experienced and went through my first pregnancy. So I'm actually still fairly new postpartum. My little boy will actually be 3 on August 31st. So kind of have a background in all things life, sports, and medicine, and now parenthood.
Perfect, perfect. So happy belated birthday because
Yeah,
by the time this gets out, it'll probably be after the fact. So, what do you have in store for your son who is turning 3?
we have a party planned. Honestly, we're in Texas and it's been 109 degrees. So it is today, the high is 109 with the heat index of like 118. So his birthday party is next Sunday, but we are trying to do everything that we can to plan ahead and plan accordingly just to keep it a safe event for everybody to participate in, with it being outside. But yeah, looking forward to that. I will say that my son is, and I'll share this now because I'm sure it's something I'll talk about. My son is very speech delayed. We were a little bit concerned with some developmental delays. At this point in time, we believe that he's just poorly socialized being a COVID baby, and that it truly is just a speech and verbal communication delay, as everything else seems to be catching up to par with speech therapy and things of that nature. But trying to do everything that we can to plan for it to be a successful event for him, to not overwhelm him. I believe I'm very neurodivergent. If that's not, I don't believe that I've shared something like that, anything about that in our previous interview. So I'm highly neurodivergent. I know that from a medical standpoint, there's a strong genetic component to that. So he's clearly very neurodivergent as well. So just trying to make sure that we plan accordingly so that he has a birthday party that he enjoys, that is not overwhelming for him, and that everybody can have a good time.
Perfect, perfect. I'm wishing him all the best. I'm wishing, of course, the family a very, very fantastic birthday because
Thank
being
you.
born, you're welcome, being born in the last couple of years, I can just imagine one, the different childhood that that child has, and two, the coping that the parents have to go through because the world today is not the world it was in 2019, for example, right?
You are could not be more on. I often every so often my husband and I will talk about if we could go back and if we knew, I found out I was pregnant in January of 2020. And in March of 2020, literally the world shut down abruptly. When I found out I was pregnant, COVID coronavirus was something that had been like in the whisperings, and oh, it was like kind of this thing, this folklore. But within about an 8-week period, it became a very real thing. And it very much changed the experience that we had with being pregnant. It very much changed, to be quite honest, as a registered nurse in specialty, it very much changed the experience that I had with my profession, all while going through my first pregnancy. So it was a very difficult time. It was a very challenging time, I would say. Not so much difficult, just presented. There were a handful of very new, very real challenges that kind of all abruptly happened. But needless to say, it very much changed our experience becoming parents and our experience raising a child. I never planned to be a stay-at-home mother. I very much loved my career. I was in love with my career. I was very excited to be a working mom and kind of that new age thing. And again, COVID happened, and to be very transparent, it took the wind from my sails as a nurse. It took something that I loved very much and that had dedicated a lot of my life to. I was married to my job, very much dedicated a lot of my life to, and it kind of took that love away from me. It was just such a difficult time. Now you top that all off with the fact that I went through a pregnancy literally throughout the entire time, and COVID being a very difficult situation was made exponentially more difficult with the fact that I was pregnant. So I I will say I try and look at everything glass half full at this point in time, because it's easy for us to look back and think, God, it was so hard. It was so difficult. I never wanted to have a baby in quarantine. I never wanted to be quarantined at home. Um, those first couple of months after I had my son, and I literally clocked out from a 12-hour shift and walked to labor and delivery and had a baby, and haven't gone back to the hospital since. I was home with my kid. Obviously, daycares were shut down. That wasn't an option. When it did become an option again, the cost was unreasonable. There was nobody who could afford to put their, and it was scary. So I kind of, out of nowhere and without any planning, ended up being a stay-at-home mom, and it was a very different thing for me. I'm not somebody who sits well. I'm not somebody who is stagnant very well. Again, I've been a 6-sport athlete my entire life. I've been, it just, my life, literally the emergency brake went on and I took an abrupt stop. But looking back on it now, I think that I think it has, in the long run, caused so many positive changes for me as a human being, and as a person, as a woman, as a wife, and as a mother. And although COVID and all of these things that I'm talking about were very, very difficult situations to get through, I know in my heart and soul, I have come out a more complete person and a better person because of it. Instead of masking myself behind overwork, masking myself behind exercise. And to be quite honest, there were times where exercise, it wasn't an obsession. It's all I knew. It forced me to sit at home and be still with this human being that I had no idea what to do with, who we taught each other, and I look at it now, and there's a saying in the fight world. I'm a combat sport athlete and have been competitive for many years. There's a saying in the fight world, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And you think about that when you're boxing or kickboxing, and when you try and be hard and rigid and fast and powerful, everything's a disaster, right? But when you go in there and you're smooth and you're slow, you see things, you're able to move in a way that is intrinsically faster, if that makes sense. And looking back on that period of my life now, I think that saying applied to that. It slowing down sped things up, and taking a moment to those moments to be and to be present and not worry about the past and not have anxiety about the future, but just live day to day in that house with this little boy. Truly, it slowed things down to the point where I felt so hyper aware and so much more aware of who I am as a human being, and so much more now present in every moment, where in the past, a lot of moments were overshadowed by the hustle and bustle of things, if that makes sense. So very grateful for those experiences.
It does. And here in Canada, it's a little bit different. We came out of the lockdowns late 2022. So it's
Right.
probably been about a year, right?
Hmm.
And I know our American counterparts were pretty much out of it the beginning of 2022, late
Right.
2021.
Hmm.
Um, but even though we came out of it, we still couldn't go anywhere. Many of us couldn't travel. Many of us couldn't leave our
Right.
own country. Many of us couldn't go back to our job. But one thing, at least the perception of it overwhelmingly that happened in Canada, is that there is two things. One, everyone realized that, hey, the job that I've been killing myself for may not be the job that I want to continue killing myself for in the
Amen.
future.
Amen.
And the second thing was, all of this means very little if you don't have
Just
someone to share it with. Is that what you experienced
absolutely.
as well?
Absolutely. Both of those things to the utmost degree. This job, that being a nurse, was who I was. I was an athlete and I was a nurse. And aside from those things, there were very few things that truly identified me as a person. And was a problem. I didn't realize that that was a problem at the time, because again, it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle, and days run into weeks and weeks run into years. And the next thing you know, you've been doing this for 12 years and it's all you know. But I very much realized that the job that I was killing myself for, I was replaceable. The job that I mean, to be quite honest, there were times I had marital problems because of my job, because I would come home from 12 or 14 hours in the cath lab and have nothing to give to my husband. Like, would literally walk in the door and be like, I can't do anything for you. I have no compassion. I have given it all. And the situation with the pandemic really opened a lot of ours, especially in the medical field, a lot of our eyes to the fact that that was not reciprocated. The love and the dedication that we were giving to these employers, and quite honestly, our patients, when crap hit the fan, excuse my language, it wasn't reciprocated. And it's one of those things, better late than never. I often think, man, 10 more years could have gone by and I could have been honestly in midlife, possibly divorced, just alone, even if not alone, worked to the bone and borderline depressed because of what I'm putting myself through with my job every day, for a job where I really didn't matter that much. And that was a hard thing to realize. It was almost like a breakup. It was like mourning. That's the best way I can describe it. It was like I had to mourn this and understand that that part of my life didn't exist anymore. And what I thought it was really, really wasn't the truth. And there was a period after I, was home with my child and very newly postpartum, where I was kind of mourning that past life and being reborn. But there was a period of time where I grieved it, and I went through the processes of grieving and understanding that I had to let go of that part of my life. And once I did that, I felt like I was much more able to embrace the new life that I had, very much so. And I think that happened for a lot of people. I think that quarantine and being shut down, we really had to sit with ourselves, and we really had to sit with who we are and what our lives were made of. And it changed a lot of people for the better, honestly.
I will 100% agree. And I know, 'cause I have a few friends here that are teachers and nurses. And I remember them explaining, we shared this the last time we spoke, that the difficulty that they were having, and many of them felt vilified because they were given their all and they just didn't understand why it wasn't reciprocated, as you mentioned. Now, it's not
Yep.
like it's a one-on-one where it's like a marriage or a
Right,
relationship where, because it's just a different dynamic. But when it
right.
comes to your employer, it's just seemed like a lot of people are like, why the hell am I going to continue to do
Yep,
this when it's impacting me mentally, physically, romantically? Because as you mentioned, it's like my partner, my husband, my wife, my spouse,
yep,
they don't even recognize who I am because I'm not able to give myself. And I think
absolutely.
one thing that I went through is I look back and I know we shared how we both have similar childhood where we tried to do our best from the circumstances we had.
Absolutely.
And being where I am, let's say in 2019, that's all I could think about when I was in my 20s. I was so dedicated to being that man. And then when I became that man, I was appreciative, but a part of me looking back, I think I kind of took it for granted because when all the lockdowns happened and that was being changed or maybe taken away from me, I had to step back and say, Train, who are you without this
Yes.
job?
Absolutely.
Right?
It's your identity. And for a lot of us, like you said, in healthcare and the education business and public service, I will say public service in general, I feel like was affected. It takes away your identity. And again, you don't realize it's your identity because a decade's gone by and this has become who you are. And you identify yourself with being good at it, or going above beyond and beyond for your job, and getting this accolade and that accolade because you put in so many man hours. And it's how you identify your worth. And the pandemic happened and it showed us that the things that you really matter might not matter that much, and these things that you've been overlooking, like personal relationships, like mental health, um, like your energy, just the vibe that you're giving in the world, that those matter more. And I will say that and I was talking to my husband about this morning because I was like, I really want to have some talking points. This interview is important to me and I really want to fulfill my commitment. Commitments are important to me. And I really want to have some talking points so that I can contribute something. And I think that my biggest takeaway from everything is that my energy and the energy that I put into the universe now is so much more balanced. It's so much more, it's not positive or negative. It's just accepting, right? I don't have these expectations of what my work week needs to look like. I don't have these expectations of my productivity or of my performance as an athlete. My expectations, I feel so much happier, and I feel that the energy that I'm putting out is so much more of a positive thing because I'm so much more able to live and appreciate each moment as it is without expectations of the past or expectations of the future. And my life has really turned into a series of, instead of all of this planning and fretting and rushing to get here, and now I have to get home, and what's on the schedule and what does this weekend look like, it's one moment at a time, and being in this moment and appreciating this moment for whatever it is, good or bad or otherwise, opposed to fretting about moments of the past or anticipating moments of the future. And it's feels like a weight off my shoulders. It really does. It feels like I can take a deep breath for the first time in a really, really long time. And I didn't realize that that was an issue until kind of the smoke has cleared and I can kind of see clearly now.
What are some of the ways that you're able to maintain that balance? Because there's many of us who are struggling to do that, and that's a very important first step.
I have to constantly stop and remind myself. I literally will stop and talk myself through it. I can feel, I don't want to say anxiety or stress. I can feel the energy and the homeostatic energy balance of my body change. I can feel my vital signs start to change. I can feel my body become tense. I carry a lot of tension in my body. I'm a very physical person. I have to literally stop and say, Lucy, take a breath. My husband will be in the bedroom. He's like, are you talking to yourself? I'm fine. Just, I have to stop, take a breath. What can you control? What is in your control now? Just let it be. Just let it just stop, take a breath. And I have a saying, and this is not going to mess up my energy. This is not going to mess up my balance. I'm not going to, if I have to stop and verbally remind myself of that, like a schizophrenic person, and talk to myself in the third person in that way, I give myself that reminder. I will give myself parameters. I'm going to stop right now. I'm sitting down. I'm not going to do this. I have done enough. And to the point where I will verbally have that conversation with myself. I've done a lot of reading. I've been reading a lot on Stoicism, a lot of the teachings of Marcus Aurelius. The only true good is to be one with virtue. There is no good or bad. There is only what it is. There's no negative or positive. It purely is this moment and how you interpret this moment. And everybody's interpretation can be different. But doing a lot of reading on Stoicism, a lot of reading on Buddhism, energies, and not necessarily religious teachings, but teachings on energy and where you place that energy, and just in the grand scheme of things, how you can contribute to being positive and doing positive for others, instead of so much looking at these experiences for what they are to you. And no matter how tired I am, no matter what my day has entailed, I have made a commitment that every night I read 10 pages of something of that nature that regrounds me, that forces me to be in tune with the person I want to be.
I have a same commitment where I kind of fell off years ago, but then I resumed it. But then I kind of haven't been able to do it every day, where I will dedicate 1 hour every day to reading something that is going to mentally and emotionally stimulate me. And
Yes.
I share this because I want to get back to the person I was previously. And I spent a lot of time this year reflecting, and there's parts of me that I miss. There's parts of me that I wish I still continued forward. Lucy, when you look at what you've gone through over the last couple of years, and when you compare it, not even compare it, when you reflect on the woman that you are today, how different and how proud are you?
When I reflect, I feel like I have weathered a lot of storms. Um, I feel very confident in myself and in my mental fortitude. I'm always proud of myself. I always find things to be proud of myself over. And for the vast majority of my life, those things have been physical achievements, sports, being strong, being physically dominant in things. Um, I have really started to explore the path of making my mind as strong as my body. For a very long time, my mental growth and my mental strength, my mental training, if you will, was something I never thought about. It was always physical. But over the last several months, the last year, I've I've realized that there has been a huge discrepancy in the training that I'm putting into my mind. And again, reading into stoicism and a lot of things that I've gotten very heavy into over this last year, the mind you need to exercise and train just as, if not more than the body. And I have spent 3 decades putting massive amounts of training and expertise in what I can do physically. And all during that time, my mental training has been an afterthought. And I could feel that. I felt that when COVID happened. I felt that when I became a mother, when I had to sit, when it wasn't about being physical, when I had to actually sit and be still with my mind. And that was a problem for me. I'm very proud and I feel very accomplished in the fact that I was able to own that, to acknowledge that, however hard it was and however long it took me, and then put a plan of action into place. Look, Rome wasn't built in a day, but what can I do to start balancing my mind and my body's connection? And it's truly done nothing but good things. Slowing down has sped things up, slowing down the intensity of my workouts, falling in love with long walks. My son, this is, if I could go back and tell my 10 years ago, tell myself, hey, sunrise morning walks, do it, just do it. Even if you're busy, even if you have this and this and this plan, make the commitment and get up and do it. Again, with COVID happening, a lot of times we were inside, and my son, very much like me, is an outdoors person. His circadian rhythm very much depends on sunrises and sunsets, and making that commitment to him. Hey, even if I don't want to be up early, even if I have other things planned, he deserves to have this. That in turn made me accountable. And it is my new passion. We wake up every morning together. We get our stroller, we get our waters, we go out and we watch the sunrise and walk for an hour. And it is just, I can't, if I could sing it from the mountaintops, it makes me feel so connected to no phones, no music, no TVs, no media, no sitting around. Me and him outside talking about birds and talking about sounds and singing songs. And I walk past some people's houses on our little route in our neighborhood. And I know they must think I'm crazy because I'm singing as loud as I can in the middle of the street, pushing my son in a stroller. And it doesn't matter. It's not, I don't have that ego. I don't care. I care about those moments with him. And again, I can't stress it enough, being present in that moment, not worrying about what I have to do later that day, not worried about what chores might be waiting or do we need to rush to this appointment? Nothing matters but those moments, one after another, while we're out there and experiencing that together. It's really reconnected me to the universe, I feel like. And I know that sounds cheesy in a lot of ways, but it really makes me feel reconnected to my energy and into the world.
That's something I want everyone to fully understand because I'm going to share my example. One of the best times during the day, and this is before I got my dog, is when I used to walk to the plazas, probably maybe a 10-15 minute walk. But I wouldn't walk on the main road. I'd walk in between the neighborhoods, like you're seeing,
Hmm.
right? Like you were saying.
Yep.
And then you see people, and then it just feels so good. It's like it's a feeling that you have to experience it to
Yes.
truly appreciate it. Because it's easy to get in your car and just drive and do that, but when you put on your shoes, you go out there, it is just you. Whatever it is you want to think about, you can think about, or better
Yes.
yet, you're not even
Yes.
thinking about everything. You're just enjoying the sunshine, the nice breeze, the and you get to see your neighbors. Remember, guys, this was a time. There was a time where we weren't able to see the person next door.
Yes.
So that's why I take advantage of being outdoors. And one of the commitments I had is every 2 months, I wanted to drive somewhere and just enjoy that city. So it could be a city that's 3 hours away and I just enjoy the culture of that city. It could be a city that's 10 hours away. But that's something I wanted to do because many of us seem to have forgotten that interaction piece. And I gave the example to someone the other day and I said, isolation is one of the top punishments that we give to
Absolutely.
inmates
Mm-hmm.
outside of capital punishment, death. So
Mm-hmm.
why choose that for yourself? I know there's some people, to those listening, you haven't seen outside of your four walls for days. Right? And it's impacting you in ways that you may not be able to understand now. You don't want to wait 10 years, like Lucy's saying. You don't want to wait a number of years like I did. So when you see the woman you are becoming today, 10 years ago, would you believe that you would be where you are now enjoying these types of activities?
Absolutely not in a million years. If you told me 10 years ago, if I sat down and was able to speak to myself 10 years ago and say, this is going to be your life, and this is what you do, and this is what you enjoy, and you're a mom, and you stay at home, and you're not a nurse, and you enjoy long walks in the morning listening to the birds' morning song. And there is not an amount of money that you could have paid me to believe it. It is against everything that I thought I was, that I thought I was as a person, that I thought I was. And our thoughts can be convoluted. We trick ourselves into believing our thoughts, right? And it's easy to do, but I believe that true growth is calling yourself on that BS. True growth is challenging your own thoughts, not somebody challenging them for you, not somebody giving you a rude awakening and making you face the facts, but challenging your own thoughts. And I challenge your listeners. I challenge you. I challenge anybody hearing this. Stop and question yourself. When you believe something and when something feels true, when your emotions feel true, when you feel rushed, when you feel like you don't have an extra minute in the day, challenge it. Challenge yourself. That is where true growth happens. Not when somebody's forcing that, but when you find the ability to dig deep enough to do that. For me, it I again, I was at home with a newborn and sat there long enough that you start thinking and you start questioning and you start maybe not believing those things. You start feeling different. But we don't get there until we start to challenge what we are complacent with. And it's easy to get into the monotony of things. It's easy, like you're saying, let's get in our car and drive. It's not worth the walk. It's a little hot outside. It's too hot for a walk. Let's just go. Is it challenge yourself? Is it the convenient way or is it the right way? And 9 times out of 10, we have fallen in love with convenience in this world. And convenience isn't always right. Convenience isn't always best. From time to time, we need to take the inconvenient way just to try it. What's it going to hurt? Um, I think that it is an eye-opening experience for anybody who truly tries to do it. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's easier said than done. It's hard to call yourself on your stuff. It's hard to realize that the last 12 years of a career have been maybe in vain. Maybe it wasn't what you built it up to be in your mind and in your heart. And that's a hard thing to do. Um, but it's necessary. Those questions and those thought processes are necessary to us as a human race so that we can continue to evolve in a positive way.
And that's what I am doing as well because I want to be more than my 9 to 5. I want to go back and say, Terrain, if tomorrow, God willing, it doesn't happen, but if tomorrow it was taken away from you, who are you? And
Yes.
I asked a few people that question. I was like, well, Terrain, I'm a husband, I'm this. I'm like, okay, take away your marriage, take away your children, take away your job. Who are you? Because
Right.
you're someone before you got married, you're someone before you had kids. And sometimes I think we forget that because I don't know about you, but excluding the some of the negative aspects of my childhood, things were simpler.
Absolutely.
Right?
Even including the negative aspects, it was such a more simple time. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So when I look back on that, we complicate things as we become adults. We complicate things as we involve these things in our lives. And going forward, Lucy, what type of woman do you see yourself becoming if you have not reached that type of woman yet as of right now?
I want to be somebody, I want to continue to strive to be somebody who appreciates the simple things, appreciates the things that matter. I am reading a book right now. It's called this the here, let me pull it up. And I recommend this. And it sounds a little graphic, but it's not. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up F an F by Mark Manson. And the book, truly, it's titled a counterintuitive approach to living a good life. And his message, and I have all of these things highlighted, isn't about not caring. It's about caring about the right things. And when we stress about traffic or a stain on our shirt or our doctor's running late at an appointment, it's not that we're caring too much. It's that we're not appreciating the things that truly matter. So we care about the things that are irrelevant. But when you stop and you are putting the time and the effort and the F's, right? Giving the F's into your relationships, time with your child, watching the sunrise, being healthy, sleeping well, then you run out of F's to give. So you're not stressing about the guy who cut you off in traffic, or my shoes are running late that I ordered from Amazon and now they're 3 days late, right? When you are distributing your care and your effort into the right things, then all the insignificant things fade away. It's just distribution of effort, right? But this book has been, again, kind of along the lines of stoicism. It's about the distribution of where we only have so many F's to give. When we distribute those correctly, everything else fades away, right? And I want to continue to strive to do that. And I would be lying if I said that there aren't moments in every day where I know that I'm putting effort and care into something that doesn't really matter. But I'm working at it, and I make sure that when I recognize that I stop myself and remind myself that this is not a place I want to give those F's, right?
And as we come to our close, what's some advice you want to give to those who are struggling, like how maybe you and I were, but we're able to go through it, but they just don't have the tools, or maybe they don't have the foresight to do the work that maybe you've done, for example?
Stop, take a breath, and just be in this moment, good or bad. When we run from the bad things, we are not equipping ourselves to handle things in the future. When we are overly ambitious, now we're just setting ourselves up for disappointment. No matter if it's good, bad, neutral, or otherwise, be in the moment and feel it. It is the only way that we are going to grow as a person, is to accept what it is, accept it, understand what is in your control, and understand what's not, and stop trying to control everything. Just be. And I know that it's hard. It's still hard for me at times, but just try. It doesn't get easier. You just get better at doing it.